Good morning. Welcome to So Many Whatnots. I'm Willow, and this is the Farmer's Wife 1930 Sampler Quilt Series. Today, we are making number 46, Jewel. Whoops, dropping stuff already. And I have my fabrics picked out. And let's see, my board is in the wrong place here. All right, let's take a look at what we will be making today. Super cute block. Let's see if I can get that closer for you. This is actually a lot simpler than it looks. And there's not that many pieces. So the only different thing I did was I used a print for the purple. I just don't have any solid purples in the color I wanted, or the shade or hue, or whatever. So let's see here. I have a bit of shadow going on here, but it should be fine. It's not too much. Okay, so let's start by cutting. Well, let's get our templates out first. Okay. They're a little, there we go. All right, so we have purple, our print, and our yellow. Now the yellow and the print will each get 2 of each of B, C, and D. Okay, so I'm just gonna put those on top of there. And then our purple will get 4 of A. So we're gonna cut all those out at the same time. I'm not gonna cut some and come back. You're just doing 4 of these and then 2 each of these on both the print and the yellow. Okay, so let's start tracing and cutting these out. have all our pieces cut out. Oh, I forgot to put my fabrics away. Give me 1 second here while I run these back. All right, there we go. All right, so we're gonna put this together. Now, I didn't do my little marks in the corners. Sometimes I will put a little mark in the corner if it's a similar piece. I did not do that. I also, if you've been following along, you know I despise these edges. But because I wanted to use this fabric and I didn't have a 10-inch square or a fat quarter or anything, I'm just going to have to be very mindful that this is going to be in my 1/4-inch seam and that I need to measure from the tips of these instead of, normally I would just cut them off and not even deal with them. So I knew that when I picked my fabrics out, because when I pick my fabrics out, I try to use as many of the jelly roll pieces as I can, and they're really stretchy. And this is already stretchy fabric, but I try to keep that in mind. But when I picked them out, I was just like, this is just the fabric I want. So it's the only one that had yellow and purple in it. So we are going to get this put together. I'm going to move these out here. It might take me a minute with some of these because I didn't, mark them. That's okay. You can tell which way they'll go. Maybe. It'll be interesting. But first, a coffee. Maybe a little more. All right. So, let's start with these, and we are going to put them alongside against each edge in the center. Now, this block looks more difficult than it is, but we are making triangles, and then we're going to put 4 triangles together to make a square. All right. Now, the next one will be, it'll be B. If you marked yours and have a B, I did not mark mine, so you just kind of have to figure out which one is which, and we're going to overlap that with the one we just put down. Let's see if I can do this. I'm going to have to turn my board every time just to make sure I get it right. All right, there's that. I'm sorry, that's wrong. It's the top and bottom one. Okay, the others go on the other side of that, but leave a gap. All right, this is right now. Okay. I promise this will be easier to sew than it is to lay out. Like, seriously. All right, that one will go there. Okay, that's correct. All right. So then the yellow, we're going to do the same thing to the other 2 sides. So that looks like a left side to me. And we're going to leave a gap. And then we'll put the right on and we'll overlap. And that's just so we know what we're sewing together first. Okay, that looks right. I think that looks right. Okay. So while we're on the yellow, let's get our prints. And this is another one that you're just gonna have to figure out how it goes. And if I put this sideways, because the way my book is, it'll be a little easier. Okay, so that's not right. There we go. All right, and then this one would go like that. They're such wonky shapes. All right, then this one goes like this. Okay, I believe this looks right. We're gonna find out. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna sew together these pieces, all 8 of them, and then we're gonna sew them together to make triangles, and then we're gonna put these 4 triangles together into a square. So we're gonna make triangles, make 2 bigger triangles, and make a square. If that doesn't make sense yet, it will. Okay, so what we're gonna do first is draw our seam allowance, and I'm gonna do all 8 of these at the same time. So we're gonna draw our seam allowance on each of these, flip them and sew them together. And then I think what I'll do is press everything to the print. No, I can't do that on these. Okay. We could either press everything open, or you can press everything to opposite sides. So if you press these both to the yellow or both to the print, because when these go together, those seams will nest up. So you want to have them opposite directions or all open. And so I would say I'm just going to say I will probably press these to the yellow. I don't know. We'll see what happens. All right, let's draw our seam allowances and get these all sewn together, and then we will press them and we'll come back and work on the next step. Now, all of these are going to get sewn together a little oddly, so just make sure that when you pin these together, your rounded edges are matched up to the edges. Okay, it's going to be a little odd. We have sewn stuff like this together before, and so you should be a little familiar with how these odd pieces go together, but they are just a little strange. But I just wanted to make that quick little note before we get started, in case anyone is wondering why it looks so weird. looks right and wrong at the same time. So either I didn't line this up right. Oh, but those lines look really straight. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll this out. Because those lines are straight. I'm gonna press this, let's see, toward the dark purple on this one. See what I mean? That looks straight, but maybe it's just a little awkward because this doesn't go all the way to the edge. And then this rounds out, but that is also straight. So let me just do a little checking before we move on, just to make sure how do these go? Oh my goodness. Okay. Just to make sure I have everything right. So I did that towards the purple. So this one has to go toward the yellow. I don't want to continue on and then have a mistake in here. So let's just make sure we're not making a mistake. Okay. Let's just do this. And then we'll fold that over about a quarter and see. Yeah, see, that's doing the same thing. That is about a quarter, and it will come out straight. But again, it's going to have that little gap there, which just to me is a little strange. Okay. Yep, I guess we're good. So let's continue on and sew these together. I always tell you guys to trust the process, and then I'm over here not trusting the process. But I really just don't want to continue if there's a mistake, and I like to leave my mistakes in so you guys can see like where I go wrong, and then sometime if you go wrong, you can look back and be like, oh, you know, that one time Willow did this, and this is how it happened and why it happened and how it got fixed. So I do not like perfect videos because I think we can all learn from mistakes, including me. I obviously learned from my own mistakes, but then, you know, you guys can also look at them and be like, oh, I know how to do this because Willow screwed it up. So, all right, well, I'm going to put the music back on and finish these, and then I'll be back when I'm done this. Okay. think I have this laid out how it goes. I pressed all of these pieces toward the purple, and then the other ones I pressed in toward the center, towards these big pieces here. And so when we sew these together, the seams will be good to go. So that's what we're going to do next, is sew these 4 triangles. And so all we're going to do is mark a seam allowance and flip it over. And again, we're going to line up. It's going to be a little odd, but when you line these up, it'll be the same as before. Your rounded pieces kind of fit into these angles in an odd way. But yeah, it'll go together a little oddly like that again. So again, we have to trust the process. And when we put these together, we don't want to line up those seams, okay? Because they're going, let me get a little closer here. When we put these together, they're gonna line up down 1/4 of an inch. So at the top, they're going 2 different directions. But when we press them open, they should match up like that. Okay, so don't worry about lining those up. Just make sure your edges are correct. So let me put this back down. And let's do these 4 seams, and then I'll be back. so much fun. And look how those points came together in the middle. Now I do have one that's just a little bit off, but it's not too far off. No one's gonna notice it. I'm not even sure you can really see it well on camera, but well, yeah, if I get it really close, let's see which way I'm going here. Okay, if I get it really close, you can kind of see how it's off just a hair. Again, no one's going to notice that. Once this is all put together, I won't even notice that. Close enough. But the others are right on. So trust the process. It is a little odd, though, how some of them went together. Okay, so we have 3 seams left. We have our 4 triangles. Now we're going to make 2 triangles. So we're going to scooch these in. And again, these are going to be wonky, so don't match those up. They will match up at the 1/4 inch. All right, so what I'm going to do is sew this together, press to one side. Never mind. I'm going to press that open, I think. And then I will come back and draw a line on one of these, and then we'll just squish this together. So I'm going to do all 3 seams at once. 1, 2, and then 3. And then we'll be finished. this one, I am matching up the center seam, but not the other seams. So just the edges. Actually, those do get matched up, I think. Yeah, so we are going to match up all the seams on this. I'm just going to walk through it quick to make sure. And it looks like, you know, I drew it wrong, but if you remember, I had to cut right up to, or had to use this edge. And so you can see the yellow through it, and that is actually correct. Just because of how I had to cut it. Same with this one. So anyways, I'm going to match up the center seam now that I like moved everything around. And I did press those open. You don't have to, but it just kind of alleviates some of the bulk. All right, and then I like to go to the edges and pin the edges. And then I go back, and where this fabric is really stretchy, if you need to manipulate it just a little bit, you can, and that's why I do the edges and the center first. Okay, and now I am going to match up these seams here and just put a pin in there. And then this one I'll match up, and then I'm going to sew this together, and I'll be back. are finished with number 46 Jewel. And look how cute that turned out. I actually really like that I chose a print for these. It really makes the yellow ones stand out. Now when it's set in, it's going to look like that. But this is another one I kind of like better, like this. So here it is, a little closer. Let's take a measure and see where we're at here. I have to move this over or you get in the light. All right, and it looks good. We look right on that 6.5. And so there it is. Oh, I'm a little bit of a mess today. I'm bumping into everything. All right, I'll see you back here for the next one. Bye.